Welcome to the Recovery Room. I'm Tim Tedder, and today's episode is called Crossing the Line, Stepping into Infidelity. It's the fourth episode in a series with a focus on the experience of the involved partner, the one who has crossed into infidelity. In the ping pong effect episode, we considered the conflict of choices that an involved partner often feels. In It Feels Like Love, our interview with Dr. Bellamy helped us understand the experience of limerence from a neuroscientist's perspective. The previous episode, titled Lovely Fruit, discussed a song I'd written to the past version of me, involved in an affair. And in today's episode, we focus on the series of compromising steps and justifications that lead someone into an affair, examining two different affairs to provide examples of this process. Links to additional resources, including a downloadable worksheet, are included in the notes for this episode and on our affairhealing.com website. Thank you for joining me. If you find this podcast helpful, please share it with someone else. Now, let's consider the steps that cross the lines into infidelity.
Welcome to The Recovery Room, a podcast presented by affairhealing.com.
In this healing place, in this healing place.
When people think about affairs, they often focus on the moment that final line was crossed, expressing love or having sex. But rarely do they talk about the first step on the path that led there. That's what we're going to explore today. How infidelity almost always begins with small shifts, subtle choices, quiet justifications. In his beloved story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, C.S. Lewis introduces us to four siblings who stumble into a magical world where they become part of a battle between good and evil. Lucy, the youngest, is the first to discover Narnia by walking through an old wardrobe. Her siblings don't believe her at first, but eventually they all find their way in, though not all with the same heart. When Edmund, Lucy's brother, first enters Narnia, he's alone. He's cold, confused, and quickly meets a mysterious woman in a sleigh who introduces herself as the Queen of Narnia. She's regal, charming, and when she learns he's from another world, she offers him something magical, his favorite treat, Turkish delight. And it's not just candy. It's enchanted, addictive, and tied to a promise as the woman tells him, "Bring your siblings to me, and there'll be much more where that came from." What Edmund doesn't realize is that she's not a queen at all. She's the White Witch, and her promises are poison. But he agrees to keep their meeting secret, drawn in by the memory of that sweetness and the promise of something more. Later, when his sister warns him she's not a queen, she's a witch, Edmund bristles. He doesn't turn back, because in that moment, his craving outweighs his conscience. Here's how the book describes it. Edmund was already feeling uncomfortable from having eaten too many sweets. And when he heard that the lady he had made friends with was a dangerous witch, he felt even more uncomfortable. But he still wanted to taste that Turkish delight again, more than he wanted anything else. And so he keeps going, ignoring his unease and making a series of choices that eventually lead to betrayal. In this episode, I'll share two stories. The first is Amanda's. Her experience told in the order it happened, one compromise after another. Then I'll share my own story, but from the other direction. We'll start at the end, the full-blown affair, and walk backward to see how I ended up there, one choice at a time. We'll also look at what these patterns mean for those trying to heal after an affair. Whether you're the one who strayed, or the one who was hurt, or a couple trying to find your way back to each other, I hope you'll find insight, and maybe even a little hope. Let's begin with Amanda's story. Her account highlights how a woman who never thought she'd be unfaithful, eventually found herself in the middle of an affair. It didn't happen in one big decision. It happened in a series of small ones. For 2 years, her husband had been less interested in her emotionally and sexually, despite her efforts to change things around. She felt like he didn't desire her. Past conflicts remained unforgiven. And when she asked, "Do you love me?" he didn't respond. Her eventual affair was with a trainer at her gym. But that relationship didn't start with any thought of infidelity. Her commitment was to her marriage.
I wanted my husband's love. Not for a second did I think, well, he doesn't love me, let me find somebody that does. Definitely not on any mission to find that somewhere else. When I would come in for my sessions to work out, I was all business. I was there to get my workout done. But I think the biggest shift where I started heading in the wrong direction, I had a moment a day after that night where my husband did not acknowledge that he loved me when I had asked him. Next day, I had a session with my fitness trainer. He asked, "Are you okay? You look like something's wrong, like you're different." And I just lost it. I started crying and I began to share with him what I was going through. He was supportive and, started saying things like, "I think you're awesome and it's unfortunate that your husband doesn't see you that way." That led to more conversations about my marriage. Then I began to notice changes in how he would even greet me when I came in for my session. He would say, "Hey, hot stuff." And he'd never say it to any of the other female clients. He would never greet them that way. Then it started turning into, there were more sessions that we started having alone. And sometimes even when other people were there and I was doing a workout, he would make comments about how sexy my arms were looking. And he would come close and whisper that to me, especially if someone else was there so no one else would hear that. That's when I really began realizing that this guy was interested in me. It felt good to get the attention of someone that I had already built a friendship with and had shared with personal things about myself as well as him about his marriage.
Sharing her problems about her marriage opened the door to playful flirting that continued in text exchanges. Just a little bit. One day, her trainer texted to ask if he could join her for a regular workout at the gym.
Which I had done before. It'd been months, but I had done that before, and he has worked out with other clients before that he squeezes it in his own workouts. So we meet up that night at the workout. I noticed that he was really frustrated and aggravated. And I said, "Hey," "what's going on? Are you all right?" And he said, "No, I just need to work out because I had this fight with my wife." And of course I was empathetic back as he had been with me. Two people working out alone that are attracted to each other it was
dangerous. They connected over their mutual dissatisfaction in their marriages and began to find some relief with each other. Trust broke a bit more, and it opened up the possibility of another compromise.
No intimacy happened that night, but after we were done working out, he did tell me, he said, "Don't take this the wrong way," which I know pretty much means I'm going to take it whatever way he says it. He said, "But I just wanted to let you know that I really enjoy our texting and our texting banter," were his words, "throughout the day. They just really make me smile and make me happy." I basically acknowledged that, well, I'm glad to hear that, because I do care about you.
As they approached the date that was 1 year since the start of their training, the trainer began hinting that they should celebrate the event.
And that eventually led to planning our first outing. And he did specifically say, well, kind of hinted that it was as friends, but we don't really want our spouses to find out about this because they would think of it the wrong way.
So an agreed secrecy.
Yes. He picked a place. It was a nice hidden little restaurant / bar in a quaint little town, and We spent about 5 hours together that day. I didn't tell my husband.
A lie of omission.
A lie of omission. I was obviously supposed to be at work, but I had taken a half day and spent the rest of the afternoon with him. And we did kiss that day. We were already on the path to there were going to be more meetings.
Now the secrets deepened, and the relationship crossed intimate physical boundaries. The momentum was building, and both of them wanted more. The affair continued for 3 months, a relationship that was both emotional and sexual, but eventually, other choices had to be made.
We had multiple conversations about where this was headed. He had professed love, basically trying to encourage me to end my marriage. This was going to bring a lot of pain to our families, and I was at a point where the secret was just becoming too heavy of a burden for me, and I felt that I needed the separation to think about what I was going to do. So we both mutually decided to end the relationship. I still had a longing for my husband. Was there a chance that that could still be saved?
Now let's look at my story, but in reverse. I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what would really enrich my life? An affair. No, I got there gradually, through a series of choices that, at the time, didn't seem like they were crossing any big lines. But each one shifted me just a little further from the man I had promised to be. Keep in mind, not everyone's ending place is the same as mine. For some, the endpoint of their infidelity is a secret limerence for someone else. For another, it's a shared emotional connection. For some, it's sex. In my case, it was my devotion to someone with whom I had shared an emotional and physical connection. So let's start at the end and work our way back. The final line for me was a line of devotion. At some point, I realized I had given my devotion, emotional and physical, to someone other than my spouse. I wasn't just involved in a physical relationship, I was emotionally committed. I wasn't hiding just a moment of choice, I was hiding a different life. But there was a line before that. Sex preceded my devotion. Becoming sexual outside my marriage was a line I'd never crossed before. So when that line was crossed in this relationship, it was a significant shift for me. But sex was preceded by a line of secrecy. Before the affair turned physical, we made plans. Subtle, intentional decisions to create more time alone. Meetings that had to be kept hidden. Coordinated schedules. Lies of omission. If you'd asked me back then, I might have said, well, listen, we're just friends. But we weren't. Not anymore. But that secret lifestyle was preceded by crossing the line with a physical expression of affection. The first hug that lasted too long. The first kiss was unexpected, but not uninvited. Those moments didn't just happen without warning. They followed a script I had been quietly writing in my head. And our physical touch was preceded by crossing the line of private conversations. We started sharing thoughts that should have been reserved for our spouses. I feel good when I'm with you. Oh, it's so easy to be with you. I think about you a lot. Those weren't just casual comments, they were confessions, and they cracked open the door that led to everything else. But those private conversations were preceded by crossing the line of, well, let's call it masked invitations. Before anything was said out loud, there were glances, lingering smiles, a subtle shift of energy, that unspoken something between us. We both knew it, but we pretended not to. The pretending allowed us to keep going. But before the mutual pretending, there was crossing the line of cultivating a hidden attraction. I felt a stirring of interest that I didn't want to admit to myself or to anyone else, certainly not my wife. I told myself, no, it's nothing. just natural attraction and innocent thoughts. But the problem was I kept feeding those thoughts, playing with them as they grew. And these hidden attractions were preceded by early compromised thoughts. There were too many times in my marriage when I let my mind go places I shouldn't, comparing my wife to other women, resenting what I didn't have, fantasizing about what other relationships might be like. I convinced myself it was harmless, but it wasn't. But let me step back even one earlier compromise. These compromising thoughts about my marriage grew out of my crossing the line into emotional disconnection from my wife. My first compromise had occurred years before the affair. It was the way I used disappointment and disconnection in my marriage to shut down and become privately critical instead of doing the hard, vulnerable work of learning how to build a stronger connection with my wife. From my perspective, the problems were her or the marriage, not me. And that belief justified my failure to do the real work of love. And in that space, I also left room for other friendships to satisfy emotional needs. Those friendships may have not crossed the line into an affair, but they made it easier to do so eventually. Let me pause here and share a quote that really hit me the first time I read it. It's from the book, Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. The author writes, "How do you get an honest man to lose his ethical compass? You get him to take one step at a time, and self-justification will do the rest." Exactly. Every time I made a compromise, I had a reason for it, a justification. And each one helped me believe I was still a good guy, still faithful, enough. And here are some of my justifications. Oh, they're just thoughts. I'm not really doing anything wrong. I mean, it's okay to feel good about someone else. No, it's just a hug. Okay, we'll do this once, and no one will ever know. Well, it feels like love, and love is good, right? Hey, I deserve to be happy. But every one of those compromises was a line crossed, and the more lines I crossed, the harder it was to see where I had started from, or how to find my way back. So what do we do with all this? If you're the one who crossed lines, whether a few or all of them, I want to encourage you to look back, trace the path, not to get stuck in shame, but to gain clarity. Where did the first compromise happen? What did you start justifying? What you thought was a detour may have been the first mile on a whole different road. Use the exercise provided in the episode notes to help you do this. And if you're in a situation where you're saying, yeah, but nothing really happened, I want to challenge that thinking with something I've learned over the years working with couples. An affair isn't always about sex. It's about broken trust. And that break can come from physical intimacy, yes, but it can also come from emotional secrecy. Let's be honest. Emotional affairs are real. They often begin with 3 ingredients. A one-on-one relationship with someone who, in other circumstances, could be a potential romantic partner. Ingredient number 2, that person starts meeting emotional needs that were once meant to be satisfied only in your marriage. The third ingredient, and here's the clincher, you stop being honest about it. You edit, you withhold, you avoid the full truth about what this person means to you or what's happening between you. If you're hearing this and thinking, uh-oh, about a relationship you're in, now is the time to cool it down. You don't have to burn the bridge or announce it to the world. You just have to make sure the bridge doesn't take you somewhere you shouldn't go. Many adult friendships naturally fade because life gets busy. This should be one of them. If you were betrayed, understand this. Your partner's story probably isn't about one big decision. It's about many little ones. That doesn't excuse anything, but it might help you understand the complexity of it all. And if they want to rebuild trust, they need to be able to walk you through each of these choices with honesty and remorse. And if you're not sure, but you think something feels off, you might feel crazy, insecure, maybe even paranoid. Listen, your gut matters. Even if your partner says nothing's happened, Do you feel safe? Do you believe you're getting the truth? Now listen, I know your insecurities may come from past experiences of betrayal or abandonment, but they still matter. And the solution is not to simply bow to the accusation of you're being too sensitive. So if you're the one being accused and your response is defensiveness, why can't you just trust me? Then there's something deeper going on. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but your spouse still feels vulnerable, disconnected, or anxious. That deserves attention. In both cases, counseling or coaching can help, not just to deal with the other person, but to deal with the trust that's fraying between you. And if the friend truly is a friend, then what's the harm in stepping back to help your spouse feel safe again? I've heard people say, well, if I give in to my partner's jealousy, where does it stop? But that misses the point. This isn't about control, it's about care. If you're in a committed relationship, one of your jobs is to help your partner feel secure in it. That doesn't mean you sacrifice your identity, but it does mean you stay accountable to the trust you've promised to each other. Let me leave you with something simple. I once heard a counselor talk about the well-lit room test. She said, imagine a bright light is shining on your relationship with someone. Your spouse is watching and listening. Would your actions still look innocent? It's a good gut check. And it's a guidepost for staying on the right path or finding your way back again. After Edmund met the witch, he kept a secret. When he later felt shame, he kept that inside. His way back eventually was honesty. That's your way back, too. Thanks for listening. If today's episode stirred something in you, questions, regret, hope, I want to encourage you to keep going. Don't stop here. Healing takes time and courage, but you don't have to do it all alone. You'll find resources at affairhealing.com, including articles, podcast episodes, and courses to help you take your next step.